Hi, I'm Kenda Sutton-L. I am the Executive Director of Birth in Color. Today you will hear about stories that encompass reproductive justice. When having these conversations, it is extremely important to center the conversation around reproductive health and not to have them in silos. Reproductive health encompasses more than just abortion. And so when it comes to making laws, when it comes to advocating, when it comes to centering conversations, we want to make sure that all stories are heard before making policies, before trying to police anyone's bodies. And so the whole goal of this campaign is to really focus on us no longer being silent, us no longer allowing anyone to police our bodies, and to really understand that reproductive justice is centers bodily autonomy. I have the choice to choose when or to not ever have children. It's my choice of what type of methods I want to use to even control my cycle. It is my choice to just advocate and talk about my experiences. And so that's what we want to center about these conversations. And we truly hope that you enjoy listening to all of the stories. Tell me a little bit about your miscarriage.
So I vaguely remember it. I think I was 19 at the time, and I remember I was in a dance class at the college I went to, um, and I kept getting like this sense of pain, and then I would just bleed randomly at random times, and then it would just go away. So I went to my gynecologist, and they told me like nothing was wrong, everything seems normal. And eventually, like, it just kept on happening. And then one day I was using the restroom and I realized I had passed something. So I did go back to the doctors, and they eventually told me like that's what had happened. My body just wasn't able to keep the baby, and it just kind of just passed. So after that, I went to multiple gynecologists. I would always get this pain like after intercourse, where I would just be like having really sharp pains, and I just couldn't move. So I was like hospitalized a few times for that. They told me like it's nothing. They gave me like IVs and like fluids and things like that. One time I did go to patient first because I had a ruptured cyst. They didn't know it was a ruptured cyst at first. They just thought like my appendix was swollen. So they sent me to the ER. They did a CT scan, and they said they didn't find anything, so they just sent me home, and that was about it. And recently I just got diagnosed March, I want to say 15th. I had a laparoscopy procedure, and they said that they did find scar tissue there. I had my left ovary like stuck to my ovarian wall, so they had to like remove the scar tissue to get it. Before I was diagnosed with endometriosis, my first gynecologist thought I had PCOS. So I went to see an endocrinologist and a nutritionist. My dietitian, she gave me an MRT test, which they test your blood for like food sensitivities and things like that. And I have followed it, and I've always like got my blood checked for like my vitamin D levels and like my A1Cs and things like that, just to like try to change my lifestyle and my diets and things. So I do like have that sense of information where I know when I'm getting flare-ups because of the food I eat and because of like the activities I do. But as far as like my gynecologist now, they're always like trying to push birth control, and that's pretty much about it. I've When the first few gynecologists I went to, they always gave me like ultrasounds, and like every ultrasound cost like $100. So every time I was going, I was paying like out of pocket $1,000. And then they would say they would find nothing, and they were like, well, we can suggest birth control, or you can take ibuprofen to like help with like periods and things like that. And they just kept giving me the same answers after a while, and I was just kind of just getting sick of hearing the same things, because I felt like nobody was actually hearing what I had to say about like the physical pains that I felt like I was going through. So
Normally, me and Chantel will do something, whether it's go out to dinner in his name. I remember the first couple of years we let balloons go, visit his gravesite. This year was I didn't say we forgot his birthday. We didn't do anything like we normally should. But that morning, it hit me, you know. And I remember him. I said a prayer out to him. Told him I miss him, I love him. He would have been 8 years old this year, on the 13th. Yep. She went to a concert 8 years ago in Baltimore. Went to see Beyonce. Her and her girlfriends. I think right around that Saturday or Sunday, no, Saturday, she said that she wasn't feeling right. I'm like, babe, go back to the hotel room, you'll be fine, whatever. She's like, no, Jay, I don't feel right. So she went back to the hotel room, told her girlfriend she don't feel right. She said, let's go to a hospital here in Baltimore. She said, no, I want to get back home to Jay. So they drove all the way back down here. Went to the hospital, whatever, St. Mary's. And what actually was transpiring was she was actually in labor, and she didn't know it. She was in labor. They admitted her. Jaden's actual foot was coming out of her, and she didn't know it. So, without kind of like reliving the horrible essence of it, they told us that he will not survive, because of his weight. She wasn't fully far long enough for him to survive. They had actual pregnancy that day. So they brought the chaplain in, whatever. He prayed for us, and he pretty much told us, how to deal with the pain and stuff. And that's nothing that you can actually, deal with. That's something that you're talking about. You're so happy to have a son, and in a few hours you're not going to have a son. So they actually told us, listen, maybe we can invert her, hold her upside down, and hopefully he can gradually slide back over time, and they can sew her up, and we could probably save him. No one ever thought about sepsis. And we had to make a decision. And the decision was to let him go ahead, be born, and took him away from us. He wasn't going to make it, but he was born that day. So over the process, we just dealt with it. We actually stayed in the hospital for 24 hours, dealing with waiting on my son to be born to pass away. We wanted them to rush him coming forth, but basically their mind frame was, since we're in St. Mary's, we're not going to let you, I guess, have an abortion or something, so to speak. Catholic church, yes. Catholic hospital. All right. So basically, they was like, you can go on down to VCU, and they can do it for you. So I was like, you want me to take my wife down to another hospital to lose my son? So we just kind of like had to make some decisions. But one thing that was lurking was that Monday, my son, my oldest son, which you just spoke about, he was graduating out of high school. So I got one about to pass away, I got one ready to graduate, all in the same time frame. So luckily, Jaden, he came that morning, about around 5 o'clock that morning. He was still alive for us to see him, to hold him, and tell him we love him. But at the same time, too, we had to tell him goodbye, all in the same breath. It's something that you can't imagine. It's like basically getting what you want for Christmas, and then somebody telling you, we're taking this back from you. Right. So, he came, My wife said our hellos and our goodbyes all in the same breath. And I lost it. I mean, I've never been so defeated in all my life. Imagine fighting something that you can't win. Imagine being shot 100 times and you're actually visually seeing the gunshots go through your chest and you can't do anything about it, but you're still alive to feel the pain. It was probably one of the most hellacious weekends of my life. I can't explain it.
Can you tell me your personal story with Reproductive Health?
Yes. At one point, I was supposed to be getting an abortion, and before that, I was actually on birth control. And so when I was on birth control, of course, I was only on it for my periods, to lighten them up, because they were excruciating. It was ridiculous, the flow and all of that. And so what we ended up doing was taking, I believe it was low estrogen at that point, and when I was taking it, it was giving me mini strokes. And so my arm would go numb, my vision would go blurry, I would have migraines, and sometimes I would have to pull over because I just could not see to drive. And so when that did happen, I found out that it might be something called TIA, which are pretty much strokes that you have. And so when I went to go have the procedure done for the abortion, they pretty much told me that it could have been TIA. And the only option I had was to go on a lower dosage of the birth control, which at that point would have been, to me, unnecessary, because I knew what I needed it for. And so it was an interesting situation. Of course, I ended up getting pregnant after I got off of the birth control, which, for those who are unable to take birth control because maybe they do have TIA or the mini strokes, or it's not suffice for them as far as an option to stop their periods, or not even to stop, to slow it down. We sometimes don't have the option of birth control because it doesn't work for us. And it kind of has the reverse effect on us, or the cons outweigh the pros of the birth control. And so going to a lower dosage or even another birth control doesn't always solve the problem. And so kind of telling somebody that birth control is the option to kind of prevent an abortion, or prevent a birth that you do not want at that moment, is not the option for everybody. So we all have different stories, we all have different bodies, we all make our own decisions for our bodies, and that was the decision I made, which was to get off of the birth control because it was not healthy for me and did not prove to be a positive effect on me at all. So the providers were not really aware. The first time I think I had told a provider was when I was going in the clinic to get the abortion, and that's when they let me know that it was probably TIA. But when it happened, I want to say the second time, because it happened to me twice. The second time it happened, the only thing I was told was, if it happens again, go get a scan. Go to neuro and see if they can see what's going on, because it needs to be actively going on for them to see anything and to treat it. Of course, as soon as I got off the birth control, I ended up not having them anymore because I had gotten off the birth control. So it was only the provider of the person at the clinic, as well as whomever I had talked to, which I believe was my OBGYN at the time, to let her know, and the only thing she could tell me was to go and see a neurologist if it occurred again.